medium.
Good evening, guys. I hope you're well. I hope you can join me tonight here on the GSI Paranormal channel. For those who are tuning in tonight, my name's Neil Cook. I'm the spirit medium who works alongside GSI Paranormal, also a freelance medium as well. I'm really an extra large, but I tell everyone I'm a medium. For anyone who's watching this live stream at a later date, the time is Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock UK time, just so you don't think it's still ongoing when you tune in another day.
Oh, sorry.
That was Vicky sneezing. Good evening, Tanya, and good evening, Jane Chu, and good evening, David Anderson. Thank you for joining us. If you're new to this channel, let me know where you're watching from, guys. I'll give you a big shout out and where you're watching from too. And if you're part of a paranormal group, if you have something going on with the mediumship side of things, Helen Wall, good evening, and Michael Smith, thank you for joining us. If you're part of mediumship as well, then let me know, and you can share all your information on here, and these good people can get to see. There's always a lot of sensitive people in the chat comments, so if I miss any of your questions you asked tonight, then you good people like Helen Steele, Jane Chu, and a few others will be able to answer them questions for us. Good evening, Helen. I hope you're well. What I'm going to do, guys, and I hope you can do that for me too, I'm just going to share this live feed, so a lot of other good people can get to see this. Like I said, if you're watching this and it's not Wednesday and it's not 8 o'clock, then it's a pre-recorded thing. And I do have to say that at the beginning now, because I do get a lot of comments weeks later when people stumble across this feed and genuinely believe it's live at the time they come across it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share it between my pages. Let's have a look. That's on my own timeline. Someone did ask me, they don't see all the comments, and it's probably because if you're watching it from a shared live feed, which is shared from the original GSI page over to another one, not all the comments come up, so you don't always see them. I can only apologise, but that's a Facebook thing. I don't know how it works properly, but obviously they don't show the real-time comments all the time. But like I say, if you want to share this live feed to all the good people on your wall, then please do. Let them people see what you're tuning into, what you like to watch. And I'm just going to share it across another 2 pages as well. So please bear with me unless you're pregnant. Right, there we go. That's shared as well. Right, anyone who's just tuning in and they've never tuned in before to this live feed, my name's Neil Cook. I'm a spirit medium. I work alongside GSI Paranormal, which is run by myself and my partner and manager, Vicky Hardy. We also have Jan Leonard, who's also one of our main investigators as well. And for those who know us quite well, Shane and Andrew, who were very much part of this GSI Paranormal family, have stepped back just to concentrate on other things in their life. We hope they might come back one day. They may venture on to do something new, but we never know what our spiritual path is in life. This is your opportunity, if you have any questions, to ask them, whether it's to do with the paranormal world. I'll keep rambling on until I get a question, and you can also ask anything spiritual as well. There's a lot of burning questions out there which people want to ask, and if you don't feel fit to ask them on this live feed tonight, then you can always personal message me, and I'll do my utmost best to answer their messages as well. What I want to do is just give you a shout out. I know a few people have joined now, and I just want to say a big hi to each and every one of you. Josephine Northover, thank you for joining us. Jane Chu, thank you. Helen Steele, good evening. Leslie Williams, it's your first visit. Let me know, Leslie, where you're visiting from, and obviously if you're part of something as well, then pop that in the comments, and we'll certainly let everyone else know. All these people in the comments are very much all paranormal and spiritual. It's one big family, one paranormal unity of friends, and you'll find these good people will look forward to jumping onto your walls as well. Courtney Curtis, thank you for joining us, my daughter. Miss you. Oh, bless you.
car in Teesside,
Oh,
just near us.
Red Car in Teesside. We're near Saltburn, so we're not too far away. But that's good to know you're a neighbour. Terry, thank you for joining us. Sometime off from watching Cape Coral, Florida. Wow, thank you. What time is it there? Michael Smith, thank you for joining us. Andrew Hutchinson, thank you for joining us. Hi, hope you're well. Forgive me if I shout your name out twice. Jane Chu, have I already mentioned you? I probably have. Lisa Jane Booger, thank you for joining us as well. Helen Ward, hope you're well. Hello. David Anderson, Tanya Potter, thank you for joining us. Hi to you too. And I think that's it. Yep. You'll have to excuse Vicky's ginormous sneeze earlier on. Probably something from the gardens just tickled her nose as well. So what are we talking about tonight, guys? Obviously it's your show as well as mine. If you've got anything to say, then please ask or let us know what's happening in your adventures in the paranormal world, or anything to do with mediumship. We've just received some photos from an old work colleague of mine. He's now moved on to other things, but he's very much into all his paranormal stuff. And many moons ago, he used to run a company called Ghost Investigations, if I remember rightly. Forgive me if I'm wrong. He's a friend of mine called Steve Kenny, and he sent us some pictures of an old, I would say, either abandoned stately home, or it's getting renovated. I'm not sure all the true information of this, but it looks like we've got free run of this location. We're just making some arrangements now to see if we can get into this place, and hopefully probably on a weekend, and then we're going to go and investigate that and let you guys know our findings as well. Janet McGraver, thank you for joining us. Who else? Douglas Bradbury, yep, thank you for joining us as well, a friend of mine.
We've got a question.
Yep, sure.
From, oh sorry, I've lost it now. Oh, I'm so sorry. The comments have gone really quick. I've lost it.
That's all right.
It was on. Oh, sorry. Robert from the US, wondering about portals opening and closing in them, and are they dangerous?
If I remember rightly, I think you previously asked this question, and we didn't see you on the live feed. If I'm with the right person. A portal, or what some people call a vortex, is just the doorway into the spirit realm. And what I mean by doorway is you have to remember that the spirit realm and our world are virtually in sync, or just out of sync from time to time. And every now and then when the spirit world and our world come into sync, we're more than likely to not only connect to spirit, but see spirit, or have some kind of phenomena happen. And you have to remember the word paranormal means a huge amount of unexplainable things as well. And I found as a medium, when we're connecting to, or when we're investigating somewhere and I'm connecting to spirit, I normally find what you may call a portal or vortex, where I can pick up on a stronger entry area where spirit will connect back and forth. I don't believe they're dangerous. I've never encountered anything. You have to remember, and I say this a great deal, we'll only ever deal with what once walked on this earth unless we're into something more darker. If you're into practicing something more sinister, darker, witchcraft or anything else, then who knows what you're going to open up. But the majority of people who work with paranormal will only ever connect with they'll only ever connect with what once walked on this earth. Many a time me and Vicky have been doing a private investigation in a home where they've had more activity in a certain area, and with the help of my spirit guide, we've kind of, how can I put it, diagnosed that a certain area within the house would be this doorway back and forth.
I think movies portray them in a very different light, don't they?
Yeah, Hollywood.
And, you know, like when you see a portal and it's this big swirling thing in the side of a wall and everything gets dragged into it, I think it gets portrayed in a very different way to what a portal technically is. And I think it just gets hyped up, doesn't it, by movies, really.
Spirits who come back and forth in visitation, more so if they're connected to the home you live in or connected directly to your good self, then you will find that they'll come back and forth in visitation within the same area. One of the main areas I always find spirit is very active is the stairwell of a house, the landing area of the house, and the actual doorway across the veil may actually be this area. And many times, exactly as Vicky said, Hollywood and the silver screen, the movies tend to portray it as some kind of Stargate thing, and you have swirly smoke and everything gets sucked back and forth. But it's slightly different. Well, it's much more different to that. But I've never encountered anything negative or dangerous with regard to that. I hope that answers your question. Nikki, hi, hope you're well. Nikki Knight's just joined us.
There's that lady from Redcar, sorry, I'll have to go back up. Was it Leslie?
Yeah.
She's a developing medium and she helps run Redcar Spiritual Church.
Oh, right.
Which is a great way for a mediumship.
Yep. We do a lot of things with the Broughton Spiritual Church. I know there's one just up the road in Saltburn itself, Leslie. I've not ventured over to the Redcar one, but you'll have to message us and let us know when your services are on, times and dates, and we'll pop across and see you sometime, hopefully soon. What was I going to say? Don't forget, guys, if you haven't liked or shared this live stream, then please do so. That will allow other people, on your wall to see this as well. And if you're watching from across the pond, then let us know where you're watching from. And if you're part of a paranormal group or anything similar, then give us a shout out. Give us a shout who you're with, and we'll certainly do that back again with you.
Two people keep saying that the door's slightly moving every time you talk about spirit.
Right.
And there's
okay.
no windows open. I've just gone round and shut them all, actually.
Yeah.
But David and another, I can't think who else said who's.
Well, there is. If you look on the door, if I can point to it, there's a crystal on the door handle, because we have a lot of activity in the hallway, and just above my finger now is a crystal hung on that door. Now, if the door actually moves, then we should see that crystal move as well. So if you just keep an eye on that as well, and I'll try and keep my big ears out the way, then you might see that moving as well. There is a light source coming from here, and there's also a light source coming from here where you can see it shining on my hand, and I can vaguely see a shadow on the door here. So could it be the actual shadow moving like that, and it's kind of out your peripheral vision, it looks like the door's going back and forth. I don't know, because I haven't been looking at it, and I don't want to stare at that as well, because I'll forget what I'm doing.
John Todd has said, what is the craziest ghostly experience from New Jersey?
Well, I've never been to New Jersey, so I couldn't answer that. No, I'm only joking. Craziest one was probably most recently, and if I could just paint a small picture with regard to this, being a sensitive person, being a spirit medium, if your guide doesn't tell you that around the next corner spirit is there, then you would hope that your senses, your clairs would tell you this. Now, we were investigating an old prison house and courthouse / police station, and as I was walking the group around this location, I had not picked up on the energy of a lady who was stood just slightly out of the corridor in a little, what we would call an alcove, where the corridor dips in and back out. And as I was addressing our guests who were with us that night, this energy of spirit appeared in front of me, and it gave me quite a shock. Now, I always say that the scariest thing people fear of is the unknown, and it's because you don't know about it, it creates that fear factor. And it's like when you're a child, you automatically think there's a ghoul underneath your bed, and because you daren't look under there, you switch your light off and jump onto the bed. Well, knowing that spirit is around you, you normally have a more laid back feeling, but this was one of them occasions where I just didn't pick up on this energy of this lady who would have worked in this location. And not only did she make me jump out of my shoes as of such, but I kind of squealed like a little girl as well, and I was the brave one walking in front of everyone, doing the mediumship walk around to tell everyone of all the hot spots. And I think I was the most scared, or I made the most noise that night because of this unknown spirit. But I think that was probably the funniest and freakiest at the time.
Pete said he's going to the old Nick in Gainsborough on the 22nd. So look, watch out for that lady in the corridor near the women's cells. It wasn't it? Yes,
on the GSI Paranormal channel, there is the experience in a video. I think it's 20 minutes long. You'll see two of our guests there, Shelley and Helen, being influenced by spirit with the help of myself. You'll also see that corridor as well, and if I remember rightly, Shane had videoed the portrait on the wall, or should I say a black and white picture on the wall, which was of the spirit, which kind of made me jump out my skin. And if Helen's right, it was Inspector Edith Cook, who was the kind of one of the only police officers, or she would have been a WPC back then, and this was the energy of her. Bizarrely enough, she has the same surname as me, so whether she did that on purpose, I don't know. But normally I would know, or a medium would know, they would sense spirit as they come closer to you or into the room. They would.
We have hi Neil, this is from Chris. Hi Neil, do you think there are many locations left to explore for us in the northeast?
Which Chris is that?
Sorry, I've gone past.
That's okay. There's a lot of places which have been overworked, not only in the northeast but just about everywhere in the UK, and I dare say across the pond as well. It's nice when you find somewhere which hasn't been worked. You have to remember that spirit are all around us all the time, and unless you're sensitive to this, or unless you're a paranormal investigator with all your gadgets and tools, then are you actually picking up on this? A lot of people will say to me, when am I going to get a message off my father, my mother, my child? I always tell them that you have to open yourself up to spirit in order to connect to spirit, and the more open you are, the more likely you're going to connect. And what you may pass off as just something out your peripheral vision, you may accept as a spirit connection or sign. There's a lot of places we walk in daily and pass through, and you have to remember residual energy is there already, let alone the occasional intelligent spirit as well. But it's whether we stop to try and connect to that. But yet we can go to other places which are quite renowned for spirit. Your East Drives, your Drakelow Tunnels, and your other places like Alnwick Castle and things, Chillingham Castle, things like that. So I wouldn't say spirit would have a day off, but the residual energy will always be there. And I always say, and I think this is a right time to mention it, I mean, a paranormal investigator can go in the same location every day of the week and spirit can be there, but they may not connect to it. if the paranormal group or investigator take a medium along with them, you're going to guarantee to connect to that spirit, even if it's just residual energy. And then you as a paranormal investigator can then work with that information what the medium has give you. And it's so sad that a lot of paranormal groups will take an audience to a location and they just haven't got that medium there as well, because you could spend all night long looking for spirit, and your instruments could be influenced by the atmosphere, the electricity in the location or something else. And you may have to debunk everything, but then when the medium turns around and says, I have a spirit here with me, and then you start getting an intelligent response with the equipment you're using, you're more likely not to debunk it because it matches up with what the medium is saying. But talking about fresh locations, for those who don't know, we are going to an old coach inn which is 300 years old. It's on the outskirts of North Yorkshire and Teesside, which isn't too far from here, and we are going to be the first paranormal company to go in there and do a live investigation with guests. Now, we have been in there a few times now, and we've had some amazing catches, not only on camera but with the people who've been with us as well, which is unexplainable. To the fact that we submitted this to the press and they even ran the story as well. Now, we going back the 27th of October, which is our Halloween special. We're taking people there to sleep over as well, if they're brave enough. And this is one of them locations which hasn't had a live event in that location, so I'm hoping the fresh energy, other than myself and the investigators, Jan, Vicky and the other guys, then I'm hoping we're going to build up a lot more energy and have even more interaction with spirit than we previously had. So yeah, it's them places which are off the beaten track we need to be looking at now. The places which are just buried in the woods and covered by the trees. I know Lee Steer does a lot of outdoor investigations where he'll find something on the map and go there, and he'll do ITC sessions and the Equinox sessions and pick up things there, because like I say, wherever man ever walked on this earth, you will have that residual energy there as well.
Leslie has asked, did you ever investigate the station hotel in Redcar? I did my first hunt there and it was really freaky. I was picking up a lot and actually went into a trance. Where is your favourite place, location, guys?
Yes, I did the station hotel. I did it back about 5 years ago from now, and I did it with a paranormal group called Haunted Middlesbrough. I don't know if you've heard of them. And we did some sessions in every room, and there's not that many in there, but I was very drawn to, I think, the room number 4, if I remember rightly. And when I went into this room, I felt that something wrong had happened in this room. I don't know if you guys had experienced this as well, and I also want to connect it with like if though this room was used for some kind of outpost. And what I mean by that is, I know it's not that old, but I want to place it around the wartime when there would have been World War II going on, and there was army connections to room 4, whether it was used as an outpost where some kind of majors or corporals or sergeants would have been in there, but there was a lot of activity in this room, and I can't remember the full scenario which I picked up on, but room 4 was very active. It was. I don't know if you experienced that yourself, Leslie.
She said that's the room that she got tranced in.
Oh right. Oh well, there you go then. That explains that then. It's one of them rooms which every hotel has. I know the hotel we go into, Halloween, it has room 3 where something very sinister happened, but we're gonna share that with you guys as and when we go there. Can we do some shout outs? See who's in the chat. Let me just see any new faces. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't shared already, please do. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. It's great to see a good crowd on the wall. Carla, good evening. You're watching from GA. I'm not sure where that's from. Please let us know. The abbreviation I'm not familiar with. Chris Gillett, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Especially upstairs, Pete, where the costumes are. Yes, have a look at the videos. Kerry Golden, hello, thank you for joining us tonight. If we've missed any of your comments, guys, because of the answers we've been given, I can only apologise. Feel free to message again and we'll get them. Hi from Quebec, Canada. Hi Danny, hope you're well. Simona, if it's pronounced right, hello there. Let's have a look. Debbie, thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing, guys. I can see 9 of you and more have shared. John Todd, thank you for joining us as well. Heather E. Lyon, if it's pronounced right. Your granddad passed away yesterday. Has he left any messages? What I would recommend, Heather, is to message me, and we'll have a chat about that, and we'll see if there's anything. If there's anything which is going to come through for you, then we'll do a private one-to-one, rather than be how can I put it, preoccupied with all the other comments in here. Then obviously I'll take that to one side, and we'll do it that way. If he comes through for me now, Heather, then I'll certainly pass any messages which he gives me now.
And Pete's asked, do you know of any good apps to use with the portal? The group that I'm with bought one the other day.
Apps with the portal, you mean connecting to a portal, or are we talking about an app which is called the portal? I'm not sure about that.
They've bought a portal and then they want to do the communication with it. So like an app, like an ICT app type of thing. I think
the bought a what?
Mean.
Portal?
Yeah.
What's up? You mean a vortex?
Like, yeah.
You bought one? I'm not familiar with what you're asking, Pete. If you just be a little bit more specific, unless you want to communicate with a vortex where you believe is situated in a location, I would recommend something like the Equivox. If you've got access to a laptop, then use the Alice box as well. The Obulus is a very good tool to be using if you can get your hands on one of them. They're very much like gold dust at this moment in time. Everyone's keeping hold of them because they've stopped manufacturing them. And the good old camera will do a lot more than just about all of them and capture anything, as well as a good quality EVP. I would recommend a good quality one, and what I mean by that is there's some extremely good ones out there, but I would say that nothing less than something like that. That's the Sony one. It's got no moving parts in it, so you won't get any noise coming from the actual unit itself. A lot of people buy these cheap $9.99 ones, which are all plastic. Not only are they creaking in the hands, this is a solid, robust plastic. There's nothing which squeaks on it. You won't hear any noises other than my fingers banging on them, and there's no moving parts in this, so therefore you're not going to get noise coming from the unit. A lot of these cheap ones which you find on Amazon and other places, they're so plasticky, the battery box is vibrating, and you can hear everything but spirit on them. So I would say that's about £30, $45. Anything the minimum of that up over, I would say, and that is really served as well, and they're quite robust as well. They are. Elizabeth, I've gone. You managed to type it before you went. Carl Bland, good evening, thank you for joining us. Is it Regina Reeves and 14 others have shared this live stream? Thank you very much. The crystal from the door is moving. Wow. Let me have a look. I've missed that. I'll have to look back for it. Just to let you know, with regards to this doorway, I genuinely believe spirit comes back and forth in visitation at this doorway, and like I previously talked about in many live streams, one of the most haunted locations in a person's home is actually outside of bedroom doors. And the reason being is when our loved ones in spirit come back and forth to visit the sons, the daughters, the grandchildren, they will solely stand outside the bedroom doors, because if they're going to act as a protector, as a guide, then what better place to stand outside of all the bedroom doors. You have to remember that we only deal with what once walked in this earth, and if spirit had previous connections to this house, then it will still use the same doorways as it did when it was here on this earth plane. So spirit will stand where any other spirit may come back and forth in visitation, and they will act as a guard. They will look at the grandchildren through that door, the sons and daughters through that door, and protect whoever's in the other room as well. It's a century point for spirit, and this is why we always hear activity more on our staircase, up and down the stairs. And just remember, them floorboards creaking on the landing area, what we call the landing area, isn't always the fatigue of the house. It isn't always the heat making them creak.
Carl has just said that he heard a giggle, and I thought I heard it as well. So I'm definitely going to have to play that back. It was just when you were on about the crystal,
right?
And I thought I heard it.
Right, we'll time stamp that. It's
so it was just
2033.
you mentioned about the crystal, so we'll have a listen back to that. But I didn't hear it as clear as I heard the other one last time. But I thought I heard, just as I was about to type, Carl also said that he heard a giggle as well.
Right, we have had previous EVPs, Cass. We have had previous EVPs caught on this camera, on this webcam. Not so long back we had a childlike voice, which was what we believe to be the little girl who's connected with us in a location we're going to, kind of give a mama noise. I'm not going to do that noise again because it sounded weird last time, but she made that kind of noise the doll does when you lay it down and stand it back up, and it makes that moan. She did that. How can you tell the difference between dust and spirit with orbs when recording on your phone? This is one of the best questions I'm going to get to answer here, because you know my thoughts, Helen. I genuinely don't believe in orbs as of such. I believe in light anomalies. Myself and Vicky do a lot with cameras outside of the paranormal world. We're keen photographers. We're not the best in the world, but I can tell you that working with light and dust doesn't work. An example is we set up night vision cameras in a house, and it looked like from a doorway a large ball of light come out the door. It then went up the stairwell to the top of the stairs and then disappeared into one of the bedrooms. What I can tell you is this house was quite dusty, and if that was the edge of the lens there, the speck of dust was about that far away from it, and it moved millimetres into the lens and then moved millimetres out of the lens. But because on a night vision camera and a static camera there's no depth within the picture, that piece of dust is probably a fraction away from the camera, and it's just moving past the lens. But because when you watch it back on a large screen or something else, it actually looks like it's 3D and it's within the room. We do get a lot of videos sent to us saying, look at this, my son was jumping up and down on the bed and there was all these orbs going around him. More than likely, if you get your camera phone now and switch the light on the phone and start recording your bed and then smack it hard with your hand, you'll find that it looks like you're in a graveyard and there's full of spirits everywhere. It's dust. What I would call true spirit light or energy would be a solid bright light, or the early manifestation of spirit which shows itself in light, and it tends to move in a straight linear line. It won't zigzag like an insect would. It won't turn with regards to the airflow within the room, it will physically move in a straight line. We do have footage which we're going to release soon of a location we did some time back, and when we were doing the seance, you actually see a huge straight bright light come right across the room in walking speed right to where we were sat. It was very piercing, very sharp. There was no movement on this line other than it moving straight to where we were sat. That is what I call a light anomaly, or the early manifestation of spirit. You have to remember, spirit is energy, and in order to create a manifestation, it has to build that energy up. Spirit normally shows itself as some form of light anomaly first. Yes, it does show itself as a shadow figure as well, excuse me, and then the next phase, I would say, from my experience, would be light. And the greater the energy it is, then the more light it will show. Yes, it does show itself as mist as well, and other kind of phenomena as well, but dust is normally the biggest debunked thing with regards to the paranormal world. Unless it's moving in a straight line, it will only be dust, I would have thought. I've caught many on my camera. Great. Kerry, thank you for joining us. Hope you're well. If you're new to the channel, guys, let me know where you're watching from, what part of the world you're watching from, and if you're part of the paranormal and the mediumship things, then let us know in the comments as well. Feel free to share these as well, because it'll then hit a bigger audience, and then your friends will get to see what you're following as well. Excuse me. That's Neil's shadow double exposure. Are we talking about this on the wall here or on the door there? I did say that my shadow's coming from this light source and this light source, so you'll actually see from my hand movements and my head movement on the door, that's my shadow there. So just be careful, it's not that as well. Southport, good evening from Southport, hope you're well. I saw a question from, was it Josephine? Did we miss that? Did you ask a question, Josephine? Let me just, Adam, thank you for joining us. Karen Fielden, thank you for joining us. If I've missed your questions, guys, if you've asked a question, apologies, but please feel free to copy and paste that question again. Anything, Vixen?
John Todd said, Neil, how and when did you know you had the gift?
My mum said I was going to be gifted the first time she changed my nappy. But I would say I had spooky goings on in my early adolescence, as a youth, as a teenager. And although there was something there, I didn't start working with it until later on in my life. If you've seen the Disney movie Paranormal or Paranorman, I was that fat ginger kid at school who had them connections. My mum was an earlier version of what I am now, and she was more of a clairvoyant. You have to remember, not all mediums are psychic, but all psychics are mediums. And my mum was more of just the medium than the psychic. She would have a lot of premonitions. She would kind of fortune tell. On a clairvoyance basis, and she would always tell us of something which is forthcoming. If it was not connected with a family, then it was something surrounding us. She didn't go as far as the tea leaves and that kind of thing, but she always had something to say to someone, which was a future thing. It was. I believe my gift is stemmed from that. I was fortunate after my daughter was born, who's I'm hoping still watching, that I matured as a man and then started working with this gift. I would say I was suppressed in my earlier years, not for wanting to do it, but I had other things in my life which were distracting me, which didn't allow me to do it. For those who know me dearly will understand what I'm saying there. For those who don't know me, then I had to wait for a certain time in my life until I could start working with what I had. I never went off to a school to learn what I know now. I just spent a lot of time with like some of the best people out there, hanging around with the more developed people, if that makes sense. And because I was fortunate to have a connection with my spirit guide Phil from a very early stage in my development, then it kind of got easier for me, because a lot of people will go all the way through their spiritual life as a sensitive person and not be able to be clairaudient or have a connection with a spirit guide. So a lot of things they're working with is symbolic or through the third eye, and if they're not physically hearing it, then they have to just work on intuition, the third eye, and another clairsensious kind of thing. Fortunately, I developed earlier on, and I had a lot of my clairs from the start, and it was the second I made my connection with my spirit guide, who's called Phil, that it just got easier. My stabilizer came off my bike straight away, and I could ride like a pro, that kind of thing. And I think I wouldn't be as developed as I am now if it wasn't for my early connections with my spirit guide. And this is what I always ask for you guys to do. If you're looking to be, if you're looking to develop, then one of the key things I would say is that connection with your spirit guide or guides. A lot of people in life will never develop to a level they wish to develop to, and that's not because you're not doing it right. It's just we all develop at different levels in different times. There's no certificate you get at the end to say that you're a fully fledged medium. You're always learning, you're always developing, and like I've said many a time now, I still get blown away by some of the things not only I get told from spirit, but I predict with regards to clairvoyancy, and even some of the things spirit still says to me still blows me away. Things I've never come across. Each day is still a learning curve for me, if that makes sense to you guys. Ricky Walker, thank you for joining us.
And we've had, do you protect yourselves when you were going on a haunted ordeal?
Yes, if you do your prayers on a daily basis, and I don't mean getting down on your knees and hands together to whichever God you pray to, but I'm always, one of the first things I do in the morning is speak with my guide, ask for the protection, ask for the higher side of life to give me that protection, and not only speak with my spirit guide but my immediate loved ones in spirit. I ask for the guidance to assist me on a daily basis, and I also ask for the healing as well. And it's very much the same when we go on a paranormal investigation as well. We will do that as a group as well, and ask for the higher side of life to give us that protection. But on the same note, going back to the beginning of this live stream, we'll only ever deal with whatever once walked on this earth. And I must stress this, because the movies make the paranormal world a lot more darker. The paranormal world to me is a history lesson. We are connecting to what once walked on this earth, who then tells us their life story. They shows it in words and pictures as a medium they do, and they also give us key factors of timelines where they did certain things in their life. Going back to what we connect to, we're not going to connect to anything else other than probably a negative old man, a negative old woman who just doesn't like a load of people walking around his house, which he believes he's still connected to, with torches, batteries and gadgets making a lot of noises. That's all we'll ever connect to. Ouija boards, it's a communicational tool. It's an ITC piece of equipment. It's no different to this. I will call out to spirit and ask him to speak onto this electronic voice recorder. I will get a Ouija board and ask them to communicate with me on a piece of wood, cardboard with a glass, I will turn on my ovulus and switch it on and ask spirit to manipulate the voice bank which is in the ovulus. There's no piece of equipment which is out there which is dangerous to use. People have this kind of stigma about using a Ouija board. They think they're going to bring something demonic through, but what can we bring through? Only someone who once walked on this earth. They think they're going to get an attachment from connecting to something on the board. What are they going to attach to? It's only going to be a loved one who's speaking to them directly. It's only going to be someone who is around them in spirit anyway, offering them healing, guidance and protection anyway. We're never going to connect to anything other than our loved ones or the fabric of the building. And what I mean by that, if we're in a haunted pub, then we're going to deal with residual and intelligent energy of that pub. If we're in a haunted castle, then we're only going to deal with exactly the same. The movies make things sinister. Your normal average connection with spirit is nothing more than negative and then pure love. The movies make it totally opposite. It's never love, it's always pure negative and something demonic. And the reason being is, if it's going to scare the pants off you, then it's going to make you watch it, and that's the only reason why. Our world in the paranormal, as paranormal investigators, is 99% debunked and 1% fear. And mine is 99% pure love as a medium and 1% negative.
A lot of people are on about the Ouija boards, and as a paranormal investigator myself, to be fair, the places that we go date back to so many hundreds of years ago. I don't see the point in using Ouija boards. For instance, in 200 years ago, could a stable boy who looked after the horses, who Neil's picked up on, could he actually read and write? Is there a reason why he's in a stable looking after a horse and he's not higher up in the rankings? So could he actually come through on a Ouija board and spell out his name? Probably not.
No.
So for me, if I wasn't on a board that I couldn't trust the people around it, I wouldn't believe it at all. Because 9 times out of 10, you're communicating with the spirits from hundreds of years ago, which probably weren't at the higher side of wealth in them days, and couldn't read and write. So for me, I think a Ouija board, if I hadn't got my 100% trust in the people that were on the board with me, I don't believe in them.
No.
I don't. That's just my personal preference, and it's not so. And I do use them. I have been on them. But do I 100% trust the people that I've been on with? No.
No, it's hard.
And it is hard, isn't it? I mean, not many people knew about my brother passing away, but the one person who was on the board with me did know, and it absolutely broke my heart that that person brought my brother through when actually it wasn't him and it was her pushing the glass. It broke my heart that she thought it would be nice for me to have a message from him, but it was only her that knew about my brother, I just have a funny little thing about him.
It's one of the only things I don't trust with regards to working with spirit, and it's exactly as Vicky said there. If you're using the spirit board and someone comes through who's connected to them people on that board, then they should move away from the board, because they will influence, whether inadvertently or on purpose, influence that board and the glass on it. So it's not something which can be done with trust. Can I just say, my friend Steve Kenny's popped up. Good evening, Steve. Thank you for joining us. Steve has just sent us some pictures of a very spooky-looking location, which probably the Adams style family lived in there one time. Good evening, Debbie Smasher Collins. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, I know Steve is an avid paranormal investigator, and he's had some excellent experiences in his time doing this with his partner. and he's just sent me some pictures of a very spooky looking location, which hopefully he's going to secure, and we're going to get in there and do a recce in there. I'll leave that in your good hands, Steve, and I'll speak to you after this live stream with your findings. Vicky Tory Brown, thank you for joining us. Ouija boards, let me just get that car, where is it? Ouija boards are a focal point of latent abilities, if that's right. I'm not sure what you mean by that. And yes, mediums don't need Ouija board. You're absolutely right there. That's a good question, or good answer, should I say.
I think for a paranormal investigator, you know, each to their own, they could use them, but for me personally, I don't trust them. I would have to have the 100% trust of the person that I was on with.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if that was the people, they would be my best friends, because I would only trust my best friends to that extent. And your best friends, they know almost everything about you. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see how they possibly can work.
Yep,
don't get me wrong, we do glass moving and stuff like that, where there's no letters and there's only a yes and no answer, where you give the questions where they can give a yes and no answer. But as for Ouija's, I'm not with it really.
Right, okay then. Any more questions there? I see quite a few agree with what we're saying. I'm just wondering, how long do you think spirits hang around? A few hundred years or more? It's one of them questions which we don't know, Mark. It's spirit tend to either connect to a location because of it was a much loved place. It played a big part in their life, and it's just like when they connect to pendants and watches and rings and things like that. Spirit will connect to this, come back and forth in visitation because of that. And it's, yes, how long do they hang around for? The funny question I always get asked, if spirit comes back after being on this physical earth plane, why don't we see spirits of dinosaurs? I can't answer that neither, but it makes me laugh every time. Jacqueline, hi, thank you for joining us. Sue Ray Goodman, thank you for joining us. I know I've missed a lot of comments on here, guys. Forgive me for missing these comments, but it's been a good chat, answering a lot of questions. Cass, stop it please. Karen Fielden, yes, you agree with this? Yes, and I'm sure you're talking about the spirit board, the Ouija board. I have a special ability. I never use a board and won't. Yes, we'll move off that subject. It's a grey area anyway.
We've got a question. Do you believe spirits can visit you in your dreams?
Very much so, and it's an excellent question. Who's that from?
Kerry.
Kerry, yes. I previously talked about this, and it gives me great pleasure to continue to talk about it, but through a meditated state, or as we go into the hypnotic state of sleep, this is where we are more on the same frequency as spirit. And what I mean by that is our daily life, our head is full of jargon, full of the ambience of the day, and as we get home we switch down a level and it's less active. We unwind, we watch some TV, we have our coffee, we have our shower, and we drop down to another level where it gets quieter and quieter, and then right towards the end of the night we're kind of at that sleep mode. Everything's very quiet, the slice bang on the table, everyone jumps because your nerves are all relaxing, and we're coming very much in tune with the spirit frequency. As we climb into bed and we're in that sleepy mode, this is where, as we start to go into the hypnotic mode of sleep, we then hear that ambient noise of spirit. We're just winding down, and the rest of the day is gone out of our head, and all of a sudden you hear your voice, a strong voice saying Neil or your name or something else, and you kind of come back into the room and you think, I've just heard a voice, I've just clearly heard a voice. This is when we're in tune with spirit, we're just syncing up and just getting into the same frequency as spirit. And this is when a lot of our loved ones come and visit us. Not all people are open to spirit, and not all people are ready for a connection. And you do find, and I can tell you through an experience of being a medium, that you do find that not all spirit will physically make that contact straight away or at all, because they don't want to alarm that person, and they kind of send the messages in different ways, like signs. Yes, spirit will come back and forth in our sleep state and give us submissible messages, subconscious messages, and physically speak to us. Scientists, I can remember reading an article many moons ago that someone in their sleep state with headphones on was played the same message over and over, and whilst they were all wired up to a machine to say that they were fully in sleep mode, the REM mode, all these messages were getting played through the earphones to this person. The next day when they woke them up out of test-like simulation, they asked them certain key things and they could remember all of this message, even though they were clinically in deep sleep. So it is possible for us to receive and hear messages whilst we're in our sleep mode, and a lot of our loved ones in spirit who are apprehensive about approaching us in the flesh or giving us that clear audible sign will do that. So yes, spirit will come. We often see our loved ones in our dreams. Is it really our dream we're seeing them, or are we seeing them in another realm? Are they interacting with us spiritually on a one-to-one basis, but we're interpreting it as part of just a dream, and we wake up the next day and we say, I dreamt about my mum last night? Were we physically in that contact? Is there a part when we go off into sleep mode, which scientists haven't realised yet, that we're connecting to a different realm, a different what's that word I'm looking for? A different there's a film about it, I can't think of it now, but yeah, yes they do, to answer your question, and I'm a genuinely believer of that, and I've had many experience. Vicky's also experienced this, because I normally wake up and tell her that a forthcoming event we're going to, someone from that location has actually visited me, and not only in sleep state as well. Any more questions, Vixter?
No, people are just talking among themselves.
Right, we'll sit back and watch. Great, thank you. You're very welcome, Kerry. So do spirits go from heaven and visitors? Great question, Patty. Do spirits come from heaven and visitors? What I want to ask you guys is, what's your concept of heaven? Do you think that somewhere way up in the sky there's a cloud and all our loved ones sit on that cloud, and from time to time they come down to our earth plane and communicate with us? Because my definition of heaven, bearing in mind that, again going back to the movies, that they portray heaven and hell very much different to how the real concept is, but if I had to describe where heaven was now to you guys, and this is, I believe, a genuine accurate description, the ground I'm stood on now is the start of heaven, and then it's all around us, because the spirit realm is not way up in the sky and they're all looking down at us. They're physically stood here and they're all around us now watching us. That's my heaven in my world, right? We're slightly out of sync, and I know I've talked about this a lot, but we're slightly out of sync, and every now and then we connect to the spirit realm, which is the afterlife, which is what was initially portrayed as heaven. But the spirit world is right around us. I hope that answers your question. You can't feel it or see it, but it's very much there, L'Oreal. It is very much there.
I've got two more questions. Can the spirit block other spirits in your home?
Yes, they can. Trying to connect with spirit as a medium, I can be giving a message out, and another message will come in and interfere with that, not only mess with my senses but physically domineer the other spirit I was working with, whether it's done on a negative way because you're dealing with something negative, or whether it's just their character trying to butt in. You have to remember that whatever character you are now, whatever person you are now, when you leave this astral plane and step into the spiritual plane, you take that character with you, and very much so. And a lot of the mediums on this live feed will confirm. Sorry, it's late. They will confirm this. The same characteristics will come through and kind of portray that straight away. Working with the paranormal side of it, you may get a negative energy which will come through, and it may come through in different timelines of its life, or their life, to communicate with you, and not all spirits will come through and portray who they were, and this is where we're probably talking with negative spirits as well. This is where spirits will come through and intimidate or actually try and pretend to be something else. So yes, they do. Do you believe spirits can warn you and sometimes something is happening? I heard my sister saying, "Are you going to our mum's?" I was like, okay, strange. Don't visit my mum's on this day. So yes, spirit will influence your thought, Leslie. If something is meant to be, we can't change it. We can't change destiny, and if something's meant to happen, it's going to happen. And I always say that spirit will always influence our thoughts, and they'll do it persuasively to kind of point you in the right direction. And if that direction is to go to a certain person's house because of their well-being, then they will do that, because as the famous saying goes, if it's not your time to go, then you're not going. So spirit will influence our thoughts and do that. So I'm a great believer of that, yes. Why do they say it in your ear, whisper, and not say it out loud? It's an energy thing, Gail. You have to remember, spirit is only energy, and it takes a lot of energy to create energy, and everything in this world is actually made out of energy, whether it's the computer you're watching this on, the mobile phone, or the house you're sitting. By the way, guys, my dog's just come into the room and opened that door and nothing else. So it takes a lot of energy, and a lot of times spirit will come to communicate with me, and they're unable to. They will actually come into a reading and stand there if though they're going to give a message, but they're not quite able to do that. Yet some spirit will come to you, and they're more audible than any other spirit, very much loud, and very much like the character they were. So not all spirit will have that energy to do that, and if they do, it takes a lot of energy. So some spirit will be louder than others, and again, do they not want to shout this in your ear and alarm you? Are they just doing it gently as a subtle message to you? Any other messages? No, all quiet. Let's just see if we've missed any. My dog's getting restless now, I know that. Any more questions, guys? Have we missed any questions? I'm just scrolling down the comments, guys. Forgive me just for looking to my left or your right, because it's a reversed image. I'm just seeing if there's anything else we've missed. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't shared this, please feel free to share it. Good evening, Debbie. Hope you're well. It will hit the right audience if you share to the people on your wall, because no doubt you're connected to sensitive and paranormal world anyway. Craig Whitney has joined us as well. Good evening. just trying to see if there's any more messages which I haven't said. Right, I'm going to wrap it up for the night, guys. Don't forget our forthcoming event, which is the Halloween special sleepover. GSI Paranormal, all the details are there with regards to that, and there's also the link for the media, which will show what we believe to catch a spirit child within the location. Steve Kenny, don't forget to get back in touch with me with regards to this investigation you're looking to do. My dog's getting very restless now, so whether it's to do with activity within the room, I don't know. If there's anything I haven't answered, guys, feel free to submit it again, or if you want to personally message me with a question you didn't feel to ask, then you can also do that, and I will look to answer each and every question. Great live, thanks very much. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you, Craig. So anyway, guys, just a quick message to you all. I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight, because if it wasn't for you guys sat here watching me, watching you, then obviously I'd be talking to just a blank computer screen. I only do it for the love, for nothing else, and that's what I was always taught to do from my mother. She said, Neil, it's a gift, so why would you charge for that gift? You do it for the love of doing it, and that is something I've always done for a long time now. So thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Blessings to each and every one of yous. If there's any healing you need sending, then let me know where you need it sending to. A name is also good as well, because it helps me send it in the right direction to the right place. And if there's anything else we can help you with, which we've missed already, like I say, leave it in the comments, and we'll look at answering it over the next couple of days for you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up with me, and have a safe night. Whatever time it is in your world, have a good day as well. Thank you once again. Have a good evening, guys. Bye for now.